Welcome back, everyone. We have part 5 of the Italian campaign by Napoleon. Now, Napoleon in Italy, we had the Battle of Rivoli, which sounds very similar to ravioli, but not to stick on that. More or less, Mantua seems like the pinnacle of success that is trying to be achieved by Napoleon right here. Talking with you guys in the comments, and as well as kind of learning a little bit more about the Italian campaign. Of course, this is the secondary front. The main front is still in Germany. It's a lot more closer to Paris and the directory is not sending the right amount of reinforcements down to Italy for Napoleon to have a successful campaign. So if this was not a two-front war, it would have been over weeks ago, months ago, I would say. But we have part 5 of the Battle of Rivoli, or the Napoleon, Italy, perhaps. So let's jump in. Remember, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go.
An Epic History TV PMF Productions collaboration. In 1796, at the height of the French Revolutionary Wars, a young French general took charge of a ragged, demoralized army in northern Italy.
Very demoralized.
It was his first command. Many expected him to fail.
Not me.
Instead, in just 1 month, he won his first brilliant campaign. With astonishing self-confidence, boldness and energy, he led his army to victory after victory.
And look, right, let's just look at Lodi, that we saw at the beginning, Castiglione, Bassano, Arcole, like just tactical. It's not like we have more we have more men, we're going to brute force attack you, and numbers are going to win out. No, it's just so many types. We saw even guerrilla warfare when they were fighting in the swamps near Arcole, on the was it called Cogways or something like that. So many different tactical encirclements, and it's almost it is interesting to watch. So Rivoli, we're in January. It's cold.
Transforming the war in Europe, winning praise from a grateful republic.
Yep.
And forging a legend. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign and the dawn of a new age.
We got
January 1797. A new year, but familiar problems for 27-year-old General Bonaparte, waging war against the Austrians in northern Italy. He has the great fortress city of Mantua under siege. And after a narrow victory at Arcole, he's once again driven back the Austrian armies, trying to march to its aid. But the French army of Italy is in a ragged state. Troops have not been paid for weeks.
Yeah, that's a problem. But whose fault is that? Once again, is it Napoleon's fault? Or is it the directory's fault? Which kind of continues like the conversation of someone else probably needs to be in charge.
Their uniforms are disintegrating. Their shoes are broken.
Oh yeah.
And above all, they're hungry.
And it's cold, so they could get like hypothermia. Or worse.
One of Napoleon's major concerns is the wretched state of medical care for his men. The hospitals lack everything. Our wounded are lying on the floors and in the most horrible state of destitution. It's not just a question of saving lives and getting wounded men back to their units. Medical care affects morale.
True.
As troops going into combat want to know that if the worst happens,
okay,
they'll be looked after.
Yeah.
Conditions are much worse for the Austrian garrison of Mantua, commanded by Field Marshal Wurmser.
He's still alive?
In 4 months of siege, 9,000 soldiers have died from disease, wounds, or the effects of malnutrition.
What? Dang.
Survivors live off horse meat. Civilians off rats and dogs.
Yeah, that's not good.
Even these miserable rations will run out by the 27th of January.
And there's probably cannibalism happening too. Like, no, it's probably not an easy thing to say. It's probably happening.
Just a few weeks away. The clock is ticking. The Austrians must relieve Mantua by that date, or lose the city.
They're gonna get desperate.
And with it, the war in Italy.
They gotta be getting desperate. The enemy is withdrawing his troops from the Rhine to send them to Italy. Do the same. Help us. We are only asking for more men. Well, they are. It's like a quid pro quo. You know, if they are moving this, y'all need to move that. We'll see if they do it. I doubt it.
Napoleon, having received just 7,000 reinforcements, prepares to meet Alvinci's advance.
Well, that's okay. I mean, 7,000 is not a lot, but I mean, still, it's better than nothing.
Outnumbered, he doesn't know where his enemy will strike. And Napoleon must hold one division back to cover Wormser's garrison. It's commanded once more by General Serrurier, recovered from his long illness.
Okay.
Augereau's division watches the Adige, while Massena guards Verona. The Northern Division has a new commander. Napoleon has sacked Vaubois for his poor performance, and put in his place General Barthélemy Joubert.
Joubert.
He is a hard-working, brave, and exceptionally modest commander, and like Napoleon, just 27 years old.
Young. They're all young.
General Ray is in reserve, south of Lake Garda.
Okay.
General Alvinci has received 14,000 reinforcements, and orders to relieve Mantua as soon as possible. He is eager to march, but heavy snow and the late arrival of equipment and supplies delays his advance until the 7th of January.
Because we're in the dead of winter, and it is hard to march that many men that far, and supplies, and keep them warm. And they're going to probably die off because of the weather and the conditions as well. So, like, it's just not a good mix for the Austrians at all right here. They're their backs against the wall.
The first columns on the move are Provera and Berlich. But their offensive is merely a diversion intended to draw Napoleon's attention away from the main threat, which will be coming down the Adige Valley.
And they already won a little bit during the Adige Valley, and we've seen in the previous videos, which of course led him to sack that / fire that general. So they might do it again.
Alvinci has divided this force into 6 columns. Their mission is to envelop and destroy Joubert's division at Rivoli and clear the path to Mantua. But Rivoli is a strong defensive position. They must hit it hard and fast before the French can respond. Napoleon, assuming any Austrian advance is still weeks away, has traveled to the Papal States with a column of troops commanded by Colonel Lannes.
I was about to ask, where's Napoleon? Well, there he is in Bologna. Bologna.
They intend to put a little pressure on the Pope, who continues to stir opposition to France. However, as soon as he receives reports of enemy movement, Napoleon races back to his headquarters at Rovabella.
Okay.
By now, Alvinci's forces have also begun to advance, but serious planning failures quickly emerge. Lusignan's first column, on the right flank of the advance, has orders to cross the slopes of Monte Baldo and attack Joubert from the rear. It's soon clear that these orders are wildly optimistic. dreamed up by staff officers who'd not seen the terrain.
Oh. That don't look crossable to me.
The peak of Monte Baldo is more than 7,000 feet high. Its slopes are covered in deep snow and
No
ice.
shot. There's no
The
shot.
paths are treacherous, even more so after dark, and there is no firewood for making camp.
They're
Only
gonna.
by taking a wide detour can Lusignan make any progress at all, whilst losing 200 men to exhaustion and exposure.
Oh yeah, easily. Easily.
Meanwhile, the 2nd and 3rd Austrian columns reach the French outpost at Ferrara. An initial attack is repulsed, and following their orders, they wait for Lusignan's column to appear before launching a second attack. However, Lusignan's column is not yet in sight. Alvinci's plan relies on swift, bold action, but just 48 hours in, it's falling apart.
I cannot think it was prudent to adopt a plan which, at this season, a fall of snow might render totally impractical.
At Roverbella, Napoleon ponders the incoming reports. He knows that Joubert's forward outpost is under attack at Ferrara, that Massena has repulsed an Austrian attack on Verona, and Augereau faces a sizable Austrian force near Legnago, poised to cross the Adige. Is Alvinci using the same tactics as before, making his attack from the east? Then, a second report arrives from Joubert. His scouts have detected an enemy column marching around his flank. He has no doubt that he faces a major Austrian attack and has begun withdrawing his forces to Rivoli. The report I have given you is exact, he tells his chief. Be assured, the enemy will make every effort to throw me onto the blockade of Mantua.
Okay. So we all have the right information now. Like Napoleon has the information that they're coming through the valley. So I'm guessing he's going to start taking that reserve and putting it up there and possibly throw some more troops that way. That's what I would assume.
The enemy's plan has been unmasked, Napoleon announces, and issues a flurry of orders. Massena
Reserve?
is to march immediately to reinforce Joubert.
Yep.
Augereau is to send him cavalry and guns, while the rest of his division keeps watch on Provera. Ray is to move up to Castelnuovo. Serrurier is to be on high alert for an attempted breakout by the Mantua garrison. While Joubert, the youngest and least experienced of Napoleon's divisional commanders, is
I mean, he's the same age as Napoleon. Come on.
instructed to hold Rivoli at any cost, and assured that help is on the way.
Help is on the way, dear. My friends, Bonaparte demands a last effort from you to annihilate the remains of the Austrian army. You have dared to come again and measure themselves against the Republicans. We are the Republicans.
After giving the Austrians a bloody nose at Ferrara, Joubert has extricated his troops overnight and taken up a defensive position around Rivoli. Napoleon arrives around midnight and immediately sets out with Joubert to inspect the enemy's positions.
And you got to remember, every time I see that Napoleon thing, I think it's just him on a horse. But you got to remember, his entire bodyguard corps, I can't remember the name, maybe someone can help me, but his entire bodyguard corps is most likely with him. So there's probably like 20, 30 deep every time that you see Napoleon move somewhere.
The weather had cleared and the moonlight was superb. I climbed the different heights and observed the lines of enemy fires. They filled the country between the Adige and Lake Garda, and the atmosphere was ablaze with them. One could easily distinguish 5 camps, each composed of a column.
And there's a 6 coming, too.
Until reinforcements arrive, Napoleon has just Joubert's division, 10,000 men, to hold off 24,000 Austrians. But Alvinci will help to even the odds by ordering Lusignan's first column to attempt a wide outflanking march to cut off the French line of retreat. And Napoleon decides the main road to Rivoli, which passes through a steep defile known as the Pontari, can be held by a single regiment supported by entrenched cannon. This leaves more manageable odds of 9,000 against 12,000 in the centre. But Napoleon wants to push out his defensive line to hold the slopes that mark the edge of the Rivoli plateau.
Okay, decent plan. You know, bottlenecking them on the right, though, and then without knowing the other flanks going around.
At 4 a.m., General Vial's light infantry brigade advances through the darkness. They drive back the Austrian outposts and take the San Marco chapel. They're followed on their left by the rest of Joubert's division. But the French pushed too far.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're a little too far, man. Like, you guys went, y'all supposed to go this far, but you went this far. They're about to engage in firefight.
Skirmishes break out along the line, with heavy fighting on the heights of San Marco. Napoleon had not wanted to start the battle so early, but the combat escalates. At dawn, the Austrians attack the plateau in force.
It's not going to be good for Napoleon.
The French 85th Demi Brigade is outflanked and routed by Liptay's second column.
Yeah.
The 29th Light, on its right, is forced to retreat, and it looks like the French line is crumbling. But the 14th, on their right, fights tenaciously. It's an intense infantry battle across broken ground, vineyards and walled gardens, with sudden charges.
Can you just imagine? It's cold. Your hands are like stiff. The fog mixed with the gunpowder, mixed with the smoke, mixed with the lower oxygen because the high altitude, mixed with the adrenaline, the stress, mixed with the aching body of being on. Oh, can you just put yourself in that state of mind of a infantry soldier? Like, it's all instincts at this point in this skirmish. Like, oh, can you just imagine?
Hurried withdrawals and countercharges. When the Austrians overrun a French battery, an officer demands, "14th, will you let them take your guns?" His troops mount a ferocious charge that routs the Austrians and reclaims the battery. By 9 a.m., Massena's troops have begun to arrive.
Finally.
They take up position on Joubert's left. The buckled French line is stabilized. But so far, the French have only faced half of Alvinci's 6 columns.
Yeah, the other 3 are in the valley and then flanking.
By one, the others now join the action. Vukasovich's 6th column is on the far side of the Adige River. But its guns cause havoc among French troops holding the Pontari.
Oh no.
Under this covering fire, Royce's 5th column charges up the narrow road and in fierce fighting storms the French entrenchments. This advance threatens
Napoleon is just squeezed right here.
the entire French right wing with encirclement. and a retreat begins. Moments later, gunfire to the southwest reveals Lusignan's first column has reached Affy,
They moved. Like, they got some ground.
poised to cut off their escape.
Not good.
The French situation is desperate. They are outnumbered, surrounded, and under heavy attack. Napoleon's staff look anxiously to their commander, wondering what miracle can save the army now.
It's a cliffhanger. All looks turned towards General Bonaparte, but after a short inspection, he limited himself to saying calmly, "They are ours." Is that stubborn pride or genius? I don't know.
Sensing victory, General Alvinci and his staff ride forward to urge his infantry on. Napoleon remains calm.
Oh no, they're about to
He
go to
knows
the back.
Alvinci's center columns are near exhaustion and that they have no cavalry and little artillery support. He identifies Royce's column as the most immediate threat and orders Joubert to send every man and gun he can spare for a counterattack. General Leclerc and a 21-year-old Captain Lassalle then charge with the entire French cavalry, just a few hundred horsemen. Under this onslaught, the lead Austrian troops are driven back into the gorge.
Wow.
Here, they collide with the rest of the column coming up. Cavalry and infantry jammed together. Some
After these videos, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like Google Earth this and see kind of like where I'm sure like these dirt roads are now highways, but be interesting to kind of see like the different like geographical states of these areas and the leverages and the different places that people could be and the line of sight, because it seems like everything's just so congested right now.
pushing forward, others trying to escape. Joubert's men pour fire down on them from the overlooking ridge. The final straw is the devastating explosion of an ammunition wagon.
Whoa. Oh,
Austrian
no.
morale breaks. The survivors flood back down the road to safety. Napoleon now turns his full attention to the center, where the exhausted Austrian columns have become spread out and disordered.
Uh-oh.
The sudden appearance of French cavalry, supported by infantry and guns, sparks panic and a mass rout. Alvinci, who must have thought himself on the cusp of victory moments before, must join in an undignified race to the rear, spreading further alarm among his men. By 1 p.m., the bulk of the Austrian army is in headlong retreat.
What happened to the encircled one? Like the one that was way down here on the left?
Leaving Lusignan's first column in an awkward position.
They can get sandwiched.
Completely isolated, he begins a fighting withdrawal. But the arrival of General Rey's brigade in his rear triggers a rout. Fewer than half of his 4,000 men escape. Through tenacity, courage, and good fortune, the army of Italy has turned a grim situation into an astonishing triumph.
Jeez.
French casualties are modest. Austrian losses are devastating.
12,000 casualties basically for Austria. I don't even see how the French had prisoners in any of this.
Over the next few days,
Seems like they would just get
5,000 more
overtaken.
Austrians are captured, as they struggle back through the mountain passes. Napoleon will not be there to see it. He's received news that Provera has crossed the Adige and is marching on Mantua. It is a chance for him to strike one more blow against the enemy and to seal the fate of Mantua.
1 second, guys. Give me like 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry about that. All right, let's keep going. I was about to say I can't read French, but I'll try. Vous êtes vraiment l'enfant gâté de la victoire. You are truly the spoiled child of victory. To General Massena. Okay. But what does this mean? Does this mean that Mantua will fall? What will it mean for the right divisions? The divisions that were holding off the other skirmishes?
Leaving Joubert in command at Rivoli, with orders to renew the attack at dawn, Napoleon races south with Massena's division. Provera has no clue of the disaster that's engulfed Alvinci's army, nor that the wolves now gather for him. He pushes on to Mantua, shadowed by Augereau, who snaps up his rearguard. 2,000 men taken prisoner.
They're just heavy
With just
losses at this
7,000
point.
left, Provera's only hope is to break through the French siege lines. First, he tries to attack San Giorgio. Formidable French defenses and a powerful cannonade stop him cold. The next day, he launches a coordinated attack with Wurmser against French forces at La Favorita. But Napoleon has now arrived with Massena's division from the north.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, Wurmser's just been holding out for what, like 4 or 5 months at this point. He's just ready for anything. He's going to be desperate to just. Desperation does not always help.
Wurmser's weak, starving men are forced back into the citadel, while a determined charge by the 57th Demi Brigade smashes into Provera's flank.
Oh, they're gonna get encircled.
With Augereau approaching from the east,
Oh, it's over.
Provera faces impossible odds.
It's impossible.
And surrenders with his entire force.
That's not a good look. It's not a good look at all right there. And does casualties always include prisoners? Or is it sometimes not prisoners?
Wurmser's last hope of rescue has been crushed. He puts off the inevitable for 2 agonizing weeks, until, with all food exhausted, he finally accepts terms for Mantua's surrender on the 2nd of February.
Should have done that a long time
He
ago.
and an
Instead of eating
escort will
rats.
return to Austria. His 16,000 remaining troops become prisoners. Austrian losses in the campaign reach a staggering 44,000 men.
Compared to what?
After 8 months, the siege of Mantua is over. A victory that will soon be celebrated on the streets of Paris. But it is General Serrurier, not Napoleon, who takes the formal Austrian surrender. His command.
It doesn't matter. On like a broad level, Napoleon's going to get the credit.
Commander-in-Chief has already departed to take on his next opponent, the Pope.
The Pope? The Pope? What you mean, the Pope? We will have everything that is beautiful in Italy, with the exception of a small number of objects in Turin and Naples. So the Papal States? He's trying to take the Papal States? The Vatican?
From Rome, Pope Pius VI has once more been agitating against the French. And so Napoleon marches south with 9,000 men to explain the new realities of power in Italy. At Faenza, General Victor's division sweeps aside papal forces, and Ancona is taken without a fight. The subsequent Treaty of Tolentino forces the Pope to give up Romagna, as well as 30 million francs and 100 works of art.
That's
Belatedly,
insane.
Napoleon's victories persuade the Directory to back him in force. French armies stuck on the Rhine are ordered to send him reinforcements. Their 34-year-old commander, another rising star of the French army, is congratulated on his brilliant winter crossing of the Alps. His name is General Jean Bernadotte.
He said that like that's a guy that I should know. I don't know him, sorry.
On the 10th of March, with 70,000 confident, seasoned troops under his command,
Jeez.
Napoleon goes on the offensive.
It's over.
He sends Joubert to invade the Tyrol, Massena to advance up the Piave Valley, while he leads the bulk of the army on the most direct road to Vienna. The enemy is scattered and demoralized. Even the appointment of a new commander, the Emperor's own brother, Archduke Charles, failed.
Who wasn't that guy in the German front previously, right? Or was that a different brother?
To restore morale. Charles is regarded as a military prodigy. He's 2 years younger than Napoleon, and has defeated the armies of both General Jourdan and Moreau in Germany. But he does not have enough troops or time.
They're gonna retreat.
He fights a delaying action at the Tagliamento River, but it ends in disaster when Bernadotte surrounds and captures 2,000 Austrians, 10 guns, and 8 standards.
And they're just gonna use those guns against you now.
The French pursuit continues, with Massena covering Napoleon's northern flank. He arrives at Tarvis in time to block the Austrians' retreat. In 3 days fighting, the French take another 3,000 prisoners.
I mean, they're just routing these people. Like, legitly, honestly, they're just routing everyone they come into path with.
Napoleon's troops outmarch and outfight the Austrians at every turn. But his situation is more precarious than it seems.
Why?
The other French armies are only just crossing the Rhine, while his own supply lines are now overextended and vulnerable. Rather than withdraw, Napoleon continues to advance, while proposing to Archduke Charles that they open peace negotiations.
Well, he do it.
Austrians accept.
Oh!
2 days later, both sides agree an armistice, and peace talks begin at Leoben. After 5 years of conflict, Napoleon's dazzling advance into Austria has brought the War of the First Coalition to an end.
And isn't there like 7 coalitions? Something like that.
So ends Napoleon's first campaign, almost exactly a year after it began, 380 miles away on the shores of the Mediterranean.
It's insane. Your countrymen will say as they point you out, he belonged to the army of Italy. So in like, there's a lot of honor attached to this role that you just played.
Negotiations at Leoben become the basis for the Treaty of Campo Formio, signed 5 months later. The Austrian Netherlands, roughly modern Belgium, formerly passed to France. The Venetian Republic, invaded and systematically looted by Napoleon's troops, is divided between France and Austria.
By the river. Okay, okay.
So ends the 1200-year history of the Serene Republic of Venice.
Wow.
The famous horses of St. Mark are among its many treasures dispatched to the Louvre in Paris.
I don't even know about that, so that's something to learn in the future.
To join its rapidly expanding Italian collection.
Whoa, that's pretty cool.
The French part of Venice joins its other Italian client states to form a new Cisalpine Republic. The author of its constitution, Napoleon Bonaparte.
Of course, smart man, not just a brute fighter.
It's an illustration of how far the 27-year-old general has come in just a year. Having waged one of the most brilliant military campaigns in history, many would say his best, he now dictates terms to kings and popes, summons new states into being, and nurtures his status as the most celebrated military commander in Europe.
But just a general or commander right now, like, that's all he is. Or he must be a little bit more than that. But, you know, he'll seek more power soon.
He has achieved all this thanks to formidable intelligence, relentless hard work, and inspiring leadership, which he has used to forge a unique bond of trust with his men. He's had luck, too, along the way, and been ably served by a group of brilliant officers, many of whom will be with him for years to come.
Yeah, all these guys right here, especially the guy on the far left and the bottom left, what true remarkable masterpieces that they formed out there in the battlefields.
For Napoleon
That's
still
pretty
has
cool
many
drawing
extraordinary
right there.
things to achieve. His Italian campaign is just the first chapter in one of the most astonishing lives in history.
Yeah. What a series we just watched together, guys. We saw the Battle of Toulon. If you haven't seen that, go see that. And then we saw 5 parts. By the way, great, amazing job at Epic History TV. I may have watched one video prior to the Napoleon videos of Epic History, and this just proves that we found another good channel, and this channel is going to be a great one to continue to watch. Now, listen, this Italian campaign just proved with the resources that was allotted to Napoleon, as long as the men that was allotted to Napoleon, what he can do with a little. He can take a little and make it a lot. The Alps, the rivers, the lakes, kind of at the geographical terrain he put to his advantage. While sieging Mantua, half the series was able to hunker down and defend continuous fronts from the Alps, from the right side, from the Venetian area, able to secure peace treaties with Naples, Austria, work through Mantua, put the Pope down, take the Papal State, take all these riches. France loves Napoleon at this point. So, that's the series, guys. We're not done, though. We're not done. There's a lot more to what we're going to go through the entire Napoleon catalog on Epic History TV. We have to go deep. We can't go 2 inches in. We got to go 60 feet deep. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go 60 feet deep in Epic History TV. And I'm sure there's a lot more. Besides Napoleon that we can do in the future too. So thank you guys so much for watching. First off, thank you. Second off, leave a video recommendation down below if you haven't. Third, subscribe if you haven't already. Peace out. Bye-bye.